our somewhat variable orthography, inconsistent, some people would say. I think it's more regular than people think. I would agree with.
The question isn't what you and I think, it's what is it's happening to the child.
Inconsistencies, absurdities, facts contrary to the etymology that show up in the writing system. It's a mess.
The inconsistency is a little bit exaggerated in the sense that even within these weird words, demon words, you know, O-U-G-H, there are clusters of small letter patterns that flow all the time.
So you wouldn't say that the relationship between letters and sounds, generally, in the English language is ambiguous?
No. I would say there are ambiguous components to it.
And you say that because it's possible to systematically map their relationships.
Right.
Because there's a way of analyzing them as an analyst, as an adult who's facile and masterful with this, looking back upon it, that can make a map that says, well, from this vantage, this isn't ambiguous at all.
Right. But now, let me not overstate. Take a word like city. Mm-hmm. You come to the initial C. C at the beginning of the word, with one or two exceptions, Italian borrowings, before EI or Y is sought like city. Now, there's nothing ambiguous about it. If it's before one of those letters...
If you don't know those rules, when you encounter the C, it's ambiguous.
Well, sure.
Well, that's the whole point. We're always talking about the child's perspective, struggling to learn.
There's no question that at a certain level of mastery, an adult oversight, looking down upon it, we can say, oh, it makes sense. It's not that ambiguous.
Right.
But from a child's point of view, when we're talking about, we see the letters, we're trying to create the sounds from them.
Right.
The hesitation, the slow processing that we talked about before, seems to correspond to the ambiguity. Well, because if you track a child's articulation as they're streaming through the reading stream, you can see the bog happen in direct correspondence to the code.
You can, absolutely. And this underscores the need for teachers to know where the ambiguities are.
One of the things that gets me, though, is that what we're saying, in effect, is that the majority of our children, to some degree, are having their lives all but faded by how well they learn to interface with an archaic technology.
Well, the archaic technology, if you mean by lousy teaching.
No, I mean by the code itself.
Well, I see what you mean. Well, we're not going to change the code, I'm sure.
Whoa.
Where people are balking at your framework. And again, I want to preface that by saying that the overlap is huge. The framework that you're putting on this is at least 90% there. It frames the consensus that we all know, okay? But I think there's two small areas. I noticed it in the Reed interview, and I noticed it a little bit in the Vinesky interview. At least in the transcript, they didn't say it to you, but I think I know what's in the back of their mind when we talk about the irregularity of the code in English, okay? And you've made it clear in the transcripts that you're interested in, in the history of spelling reform, right? But that's not your bag. What you're finding when you start to go down the road of emphasizing the irregularity of English is some of us who've lived through this bad period over the early 70s, when you had people saying, well, it's so damn irregular. There's no use teaching a child to. Okay, we've all been through that. You're talking to people who have been badly burned.
I understand.
Okay? Look at how crazy it all is. This is why you got to focus kids on meaning, because it's so crazy that they can't learn it. Yeah, that is what you're running into.
I'm not going.
I know. I know you're not. But see, I had the advantage of reading some of these other transcripts.
Yes.
Okay, and that was a big advantage, because I think if you come in starting to throw the complexities of English at those of us who've been in these wars, that's the worry you're going to kick up.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't challenge that.
How do you think senior people are likely to react to threatening ideas to their paradigm? In short, many philosophers of science, sociologists of science have already shown, demonstrated in book-length works, how there's enormous energy expended within scientific communities in defense of the paradigm. We tend to embrace things that we're already favorably disposed toward. it's no different in science than it is in any other aspect of culture and society.